inclusive. One of the things that I've certainly learned as we've struggled with this is that it's not only, it's the appearance of being transparent is tremendously important, and you as politicians know that. So, you know, I think we'd like to thank Toronto, the City of Toronto, for taking a leadership on this, and please keep in mind that we're going to have a big, this is going to have a big impact across the province. Now, one thing that we did do, we took about 2 or 3 days and we circulated to some of our friends asking for support of this union ban, and we have, I'm going to circulate, I'll give to the clerk the list of individuals and some community groups. But on the second page of this little submission is a couple of references to a couple of small videos that we did, and I would just make reference to a couple of them. One, Wayne Samuelson was at a press conference that we had. Wayne Samuelson, of course, is the president of the Ontario Federation of Labour, and he strongly supported this. He was, in fact, a municipal councillor himself as a young man in Waterloo, I believe. The mayor of Ajax, Wayne Parrish, gave us in some detail the way developers are funding candidates in the Durham region. He's not only mayor, of course, of Ajax, but he sits on Durham Council. Robert Eisenberg, a developer, pointed out very clearly he's now active up in Simcoe County, and this is a serious issue up there where they're trying to do sustainable development, and they're just running into major problems. So I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. We have one questioner, Councillor Moscow.
You haven't made it clear to me. Could you explain to me why corporate donations should be prohibited?
Why they should be banned?
Yes, please.
Well, one of the points was really made is that corporations have, the president of a corporation, in fact, can make 2 donations. But I think when you take a look at the development industry, and this is less of a problem here in Toronto now, we recognize this, than in the greenfields developments, that, one decision of council, and you know this yourself, Councillor Moscow, one decision of council can make huge differences. The developers will tell you yourself. And, these decisions must be, these decisions are very, very important to citizens. They're very important to the functioning of our democratic system. And if in fact they appear to be tainted, then this is terrible. And I think that as a politician, I'm sure you're concerned about this.
So your premise is that if we ban corporate donations, the developers will stop contributing to campaigns, and therefore there won't be influencing members of council. Is that fair statement?
Well, I think they're going to have influence. I think that they are going to come forward. They're going to convince you that their projects, whatever that may be, is going to help the municipality. I hope that they do that, and I think that's I think they should be doing that. Well, but the appearance of political decisions is extremely important in our political process.
So how will you know if developers have made contributions as individuals if you ban corporate donations?
If individuals can make, any individual can make, we're not proposing that, and I don't think you're proposing that. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood you.
You're saying, but how will you know if corporations make donations through individuals if you prohibit receiving them and listing them?
So if it's under the table, if it's illegal?
No, I'm not saying at all that it would be illegal. But how would you know?
Well,
if you don't allow donations to be listed and shown to the public, how do you know that people aren't?
Well, if the check comes from the corporation, that's one thing. If the check comes from the individual president, the president of the corporation's personal bank account, that's a personal donation.
I see. So if the 4 owners of a corporation contribute individually, they won't have any influence on the politician. But if
look,
they contribute as a corporation, they will. Is that
absolutely. They're citizens. They're making citizen donations. That's
okay? Thank you.
That's legitimate under the law. Absolutely.
Okay. Councillor Pantalone, Deputy Mayor Pantalone, and then Councillor Kelly to question.
Yes, Mr. Freeman, for you, Mr. Mayor. The issue is to diminish corporate, I guess, and union influences. Now, can you, have you and or your group wrapped your head around the issue that the media itself is a corporate, entity? You have corporations which run the Toronto Star, the Sun, the broadcast media, and so forth, and they, for their editorial policies, and I know their articles, for example, are often rewritten by their editors, if you will, which represent presumably the corporate interest of the corporation in question. Have you wrapped your mind how one can have a more actual lessening of that corporate influence, if you will, as your group wrapped its mind around it?
So you're talking about the influence of the media, and that they are corporations as well.
Well,
absolutely. Well, look, let me just, Councillor, if I can say this, and I'm sure you've experienced this more than once. A corporate president comes forward, and they're trying to convince you as a councillor that a development that they're doing is going to be beneficial to the community. That person is speaking as an individual in a public meeting as the president of that corporation, and you would be expected that he or she would be defending the interests of that corporation. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean, I think the media, one of the roles of the media is to be active political participant, I suppose. They make comment, editorial, and in the columns that they write. And that's all perfectly legitimate. It's part of the political process. One of the reasons, incidentally, and this is just an aside, that people like myself and others in Vote Toronto and in other groups, get active to participate, and we try and find a role that we can play, a meaningful role that we can play. And we do it through our organizations. I think that's all legitimate, and it should be seen as legitimate.
So for the question, so if you're trying to diminish corporate influence, because it's not citizen influence, it's not individual influence, it's corporate, which got other interests, then you think there's some merit to exploring ideas of how you ensure that corporate interest in terms of the media are also, because the same president you mentioned could tell basically his editors, this is the kind of line we want to follow, or assign certain reporters, if you will, to follow a certain line, as opposed to an opposite line, in order to influence the decision because of their corporate interests. So should that be reviewed as well?
Well, we're certainly concerned about influence, but we're particularly concerned about campaign donations. I mean, that's what this resolution is about. It's about campaign donations. It's not about, individuals jockeying for influence on council. Look, I mean, that goes on all the time, and it's not so much you should try and stop that. I think that you as politicians, you're elected to make judgments about all of these things. That's okay. I'm not sure I'm really answering your questions, but maybe we could have a private conversation about it. It's an interesting idea.
Councillor Kelly, last questioner.
Yes, Kelly.
You mentioned the need for a transparent system.
Yes.
Is the present system not transparent?
Well, it is much more transparent than it's been in the past.
It gave you guys a lot of work, didn't it?
I can tell you, it's taken Vote Toronto a huge amount of work. If you go on our site, you find lists of both individuals and corporations that have been made donations to candidates. Yeah, it's becoming more and more transparent, and that's all to the good. We're very keen on that. Sorry. So the answer is yes, it is becoming more transparent.
I have a healthy respect for the law of unintended consequences.
Okay.
What might there be if union and corporate donations are prohibited? Have you given any thought to,
We've given a lot of thought to that. We think that this will make for a healthier.
I'm talking about the law of unintended consequences.
Well, I'm not sure whether I
saying there are-
understand.
there-
Let me